December 5th, 1872, the Atlantic Ocean, a Canadian brigantine named Des Gratia spots a ship adrift in open water. Her sails are torn, her wheel spins loosely. No one answers hails from the deck. They draw closer. It's the Mary Celeste. Cargo intact, food untouched, but the lifeboat is gone and her entire crew is missing. No signs of struggle, no blood, no bodies, just a ghost ship gliding silently through the sea. What happened on board the Mary Celeste and why, more than 150 years later, are we still chasing her wake? This is episode 2 of the Midnight Mystery Archive, the Mary Celeste. Before it was a mystery, the Mary Celeste was a ship, and before it was a ghost story, it was a voyage of hope. Launched in 1861 from Nova Scotia, she was christened the Amazon, a 100-foot brigantine, built strong and fast, but her early years were anything but charmed. On her maiden voyage, her captain fell ill and died. Then came collisions, storms, even a fire. Eventually sold, refitted, and renamed, she became the Mary Celeste in 1869. Some say a name change brings luck. Others say it only buries the curse deeper. By November 1872, she was docked in New York Harbor, preparing for a transatlantic crossing to Genoa, Italy. The man at her helm? Captain Benjamin Briggs. Briggs was no ordinary sailor. He was deeply religious, methodical, and respected by his peers and merchants alike. He'd commanded ships for years without incident, but something about this trip was different. Briggs brought his family aboard, his wife Sarah, gentle, well-read, and used to the rhythms of the sea, and his daughter Sophia, just 2 years old, blonde curls, big eyes, the kind of child who made even rough sailors soften. The Mary Celeste's cargo was 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol, industrial, highly volatile, and undrinkable. She was scheduled to sail with a small but experienced crew. First mate Albert Richardson, steady, capable, loyal. Second mate Andrew Gilling, young, ambitious. Steward Edward Head, responsible for provisions and quarters. 4 German sailors, chosen specifically for their skill and discipline. On the morning of November 7th, they cast off. The ship moved steadily out of the harbor and into the open Atlantic. The Mary Celeste made decent time, passing the eastern seaboard without issue. On November 24th, they were near the Azores. The weather was fair, winds light, nothing to suggest any trouble. But the ship's logs, its final words, were recorded the next morning, November 25th. Position noted, course steady, nothing out of the ordinary. And then, nothing. For 10 days, the Atlantic swallowed her trail. No further logs, no telegrams, no flares or flags, just silence. When the Mary Celeste was seen again, it was drifting. Her sails tattered, her lifeboat missing, her people gone. No one on board would ever be seen again. Not the captain, not the crew, not even little Sophia. 10 days after the Mary Celeste logged her final coordinates, she was seen again. It was December 5th, 1872. The Des Gratia, a Canadian brigantine out of Nova Scotia, was making her own way across the Atlantic. On board was Captain David Morehouse, a man who some say had dined with Benjamin Briggs just days before departure. Around noon, a lookout spotted something on the horizon, a vessel under partial sail, drifting. The De Gratia drew closer cautiously. The ship appeared sound, no distress signals, but something was clearly off. The sails were torn and hanging limp, the wheels spun loosely in the wind, and most notably, no one answered the hails. Morehouse sent a small boarding party led by his first mate, Oliver DeVoe. They climbed aboard. There were no bodies, no blood, no signs of violence. The Mary Celeste was still seaworthy, but barely. Below deck, the hold had 3.5 feet of water, but that wasn't uncommon for a vessel of her size. The cargo, 1,701 barrels of alcohol, was nearly untouched. The crew's quarters were in decent order. Their clothing remained, their boots, their pipes. In the captain's cabin, Sarah Briggs' sewing machine sat beside Sophia's toys. It was as if they'd just stepped out for a moment. But a few things were missing. The chronometer, the sextant, the ship's logbook beyond November 25th. The lifeboat gone. It appeared the lifeboat had been cut free deliberately, not ripped away by storm, but released. Still, the food stores were stocked. There was no sign of fire, no evidence of a storm, no struggle above or below. The only clue, a single sword found in Briggs' cabin, unstained, sheathed. DeVoe and the others sailed the Mary Celeste under escort to Gibraltar, where an official inquiry was opened by the British Vice Admiralty Court. What followed was one of the most unusual salvage trials in maritime history. The judge, Frederick Solly Flood, suspected foul play, but there was no proof. The salvage award to the De Gratia crew was intentionally low, just a fraction of the ship's worth. Whatever happened aboard the Mary Celeste, the sea kept it secret, and her name became legend. The Mary Celeste didn't just vanish, it returned. But her crew did not, and the questions left in her wake would never truly settle. What could make a trusted captain, a devoted husband, a crew of seasoned sailors all abandon a perfectly good ship and never be seen again? Theories have swirled like the currents beneath her keel, some logical, some strange, some soaked in salt water and superstition. One of the most enduring theories centers around the ship's cargo, denatured alcohol, volatile and highly flammable. Some believe that a leak or pressure buildup in the barrels caused vapors to escape. A small spark, maybe from a lantern, could have triggered a minor explosion, not one that destroyed the ship, but one that terrified the crew. Briggs may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat temporarily, tethering it to the side while they waited for danger to pass. But then, perhaps a rogue wave or high gust snapped the rope, and they were adrift, watching their ship sail away. It's plausible, but no scorch marks were found. No broken barrels, just 9 empty ones, and one vanished crew. Others blame nature itself. The Mary Celeste may have encountered a sudden squall, a rogue wave, or a rare sea quake, shaking the hull, flooding the hold, and leading Briggs to believe the ship was doomed. They abandoned ship in haste, intending to return, but the Mary Celeste writes herself that danger passes and her people are already lost. Yet the logs recorded no weather warnings, no emergency entries, and her damage was minimal, cosmetic, not structural. Could it have been pirates or a mutiny? These were considered early on, even by the British Vice Admiralty Court. But nothing was stolen. Not the valuables, not the cargo. The ship was not ransacked, and there were no bloodstains, no signs of violence, and no survivors, pirate or otherwise. Some have suggested something darker still, that Captain Briggs, under stress or religious fervor, took his family and crew into the sea willingly, or that madness spread among the crew, a shared hysteria or a psychotic break. But those who knew Briggs described him as calm, stable, and there's no record of tension aboard. No messages left behind, only absence. What about a scam? Could this have been a staged disappearance, a scheme gone wrong? At the time, the court considered this an option, that the ship's owners or even Morehouse himself orchestrated something to claim salvage rewards. But the insurance payout was minimal. The cargo was ordinary. And again, there was no evidence of conspiracy. And then there are the stories that slip past the edge of reason. The Mary Celeste became the centerpiece of ghost ship legends. Some claim she sailed cursed. Others said her crew was taken by sea monsters, by spirits, by something not of this world. In 1884, a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle published a fictionalized account of the ship under the title J. Habakkuk Jeffson's Statement. He changed details, invented villains, and added just enough truth to give it weight. The story became a sensation and fact blurred into folklore. Once a mystery enters myth, it stops belonging to the courts. It belongs to the sea. Each theory offers a path, but none arrive at certainty, because the people who could explain what happened disappeared with the tide and without a trace. By the time the Mary Celeste reached Gibraltar, she was no longer a merchant vessel. She was an echo, a shell, a question, a ship that should not have been emptied, but it was. The salvage trial dragged on for 3 months. Captain Morehouse and his crew were under suspicion not of murder, but of deception. Some believed they might have found the ship, staged the damage, and exaggerated their report to increase the salvage payout. But the court found no hard evidence, no motive. Still, they awarded the De Gratia crew less than 1/5 the value they would normally receive. The mystery had cast a shadow over everyone that it touched. After the trial, the Mary Celeste returned to commercial service, but she was never the same. Her name had become a curse. Sailors refused to work her. Owners cycled through. She changed hands 17 times in the following years. Her final captain deliberately ran her aground off the coast of Haiti in 1885, attempting to commit insurance fraud. She was deemed a total loss and finally, quietly, destroyed by the sea. But the ship's body was never what mattered most. It was the ghost she left behind. Writers, filmmakers, journalists, they all came calling. Arthur Conan Doyle's fictional retelling in 1884 was so convincing, many took it as truth. He invented mutiny, murder, even a survivor, and audiences devoured it. The Mary Celeste became the archetype of the ghost ship, referenced in novels, films, documentaries, all which blurred fact and fiction. In some versions, the ship is haunted. In others, she's a metaphor for the unknown, adrift, lost, and timeless. We are drawn to stories like this, not because they're complete, but because they're not. Because they invite us to wonder, to imagine, to reach into the fog that never lifts. There's something haunting about silence at sea. A ship adrift without crew, lifeboat, or last word. Was it fear? Was it fate? Or was it simply the sea? 10 souls vanished without violence, without warning. No wreckage, no farewell. A husband, a wife, a child. A crew trusted and seasoned. Whatever happened aboard the Mary Celeste remains locked beneath their surface. But her story, it sails on. This has been episode 2 of the Midnight Mystery Podcast. I'm Kevin. Join us next time as we unlock another mystery waiting in the dark. Until then, stay curious.